do it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Hot Mic here on the Outlaw Nation channel. I am the Outlaw John Rocha, joined as always by the SNEIDER himself, Jeff SNEIDER. How you feeling, Jeff? I have got my Lifesaver gummies ready to go. I've got my Diet Pepsi ready to go. I'm going to get a sugar high because I got a feeling we got some hell of a battles to have today on this particular Hot Mic. A lot of topics to be talking about here, Jeff, for sure. A lot of things going on here as we just crossed 100 days of the WGA strike and, of course, a little bit less days on the SAG-AFTRA strike. But as we're doing our show today, apparently talks are going to start up again between the WGA and AMPTP. So we're going to talk about that. We're talking about some Wonder Woman news, some CAA news that just broke about an hour ago. We're going to get into some critics versus influencers stuff going on, Apple and Disney rumors. We're going to get into the Scott Feinberg email. We're going to get into so many things here on the show and a Sound of Freedom update from Jeff SNEIDER as well. So y'all better strap the fuck in. Let me tell you that right now. Send in your StreamLabs and SuperChats. You know, supporting the show is so important. We bring you so many great stuff. And Jeff may drop a rumor today. I'm not sure. He was on the fence about it yesterday, so we'll see what he decides to do. But you see the StreamLabs address above Jeff's head. It's pinned in the description of the video, and it's in the chat as well. So, Jeff, would you like to start with the Wonder Woman story? Would you like to start with that, or what do you feel like starting with, brother?
Sure, we can start with Wonder Woman 3. I mean, thank God Variety came out and debunked that story, because what would we have done without that?
Sources from Variety do say that Wonder Woman 3, that there are some wires crossed here, according to their sources. And it is conspicuous, Jeff. We said this last week in talking about the Gal Gadot Wonder Woman 3 situation, because remember that interview she gave to my boy Chris Killian at comicbook.com, that was back in June. And so for her at the time, she felt like, okay, this is done. This is taken care of. I'm good to go. And we're negotiating to do this. But she recently gave another interview in Flaunt magazine where she essentially implied, or just straight up said, that I was invited to a meeting with James and Peter Gunn. With James Gunn and Peter Safran. And we went forward. And what they told me, and I'm quoting, "You're in the best hands. We're going to develop Wonder Woman 3 with you. We love you as Wonder Woman. You've got nothing to worry about. So time will tell." But according to their sources at Variety, a third Wonder Woman film is not in development at DC Studios, nor do Gunn and Safran have plans at this time for any Wonder Woman project besides the Paradise Lost prequel project series that's set at Max, which is a Paradise Lost type of approach to Themyscira that has a Game of Thrones vibe to it. So, Jeff, I asked a question last week. Was Gal Gadot strong-arming WB or brand saving here? Or is this, now with this story, is this evidence of even more disruption going on and unrest going on at WB? Are they seeing these box office receipts for the recent films and going, well, maybe James Gunn and Peter Safran might have to rethink their universe? What do you think is at the core of all of this? And why are there so many wires crossed on this one?
They might have to rethink their universe that hasn't launched yet?
I'm just asking, because we're seeing this money going right down the tube. Are they getting, is Zaslav getting jittery? Do you think this is just something they have to overcome, and that Gal Gadot is like misrepresenting the conversation or misremembering? What are your thoughts on this? Because neither Gunn nor Safran.
Jittery. We got some time here because Superman's not coming out until the summer of 2025.
Right. True. So
that's about 2 years of jitters. Listen, I think that Gal Gadot is Wonder Woman until someone else is Wonder Woman.
Okay.
When I look at Henry Cavill, I don't think, oh, there goes Superman. I think there goes Henry Cavill. When I look at Ben Affleck, I say, oh, there goes Ben Affleck, not Batman. But when Gal Gadot walks past, it's there goes Wonder Woman. You know, like, so that is sort of what she is. There is some slack here because it's like, okay, Variety says they're not developing a Wonder Woman 3, right?
Right.
And yet James Gunn is saying, well, don't worry, you're our Wonder Woman.
Well, said according to Gal Gadot, said this months ago to Gal Gadot.
Both of those things could technically be true. Like, there's no reason Gal Gadot couldn't show up as Wonder Woman in a Supergirl movie.
Right. She did in The Flash and what have you. Yeah,
like a small role or whatever it is. I won't say definitively that we've seen the last of Gal Gadot, but it seems like we have. And again, like I said, why come in to reboot the DCU if you're not going to reboot the DCU? Well, this makes no sense to me to keep her around, especially because the last movie completely tanked.
Yeah.
I realize she is kind of perfect in that character, but at the same time, it's too much baggage. It's too much link to the old, and you need to move forward with the new.
But so then the question becomes, why is she giving these interviews? Now, I can understand the comicbook.com. That was back in June, literally 2 months ago. But this is a most recent one. Is she using the situation to drum up interest for her movie?
Yes.
And is she playing a little shell game with the fans is what I'm asking. Because so many
Dwayne.
Say that again?
Just like Dwayne did basically with Black Adam.
Well, and we saw Dwayne on the Kevin Hart show completely gaslight everybody about, I don't want to use that term and lose you as my friend, Jeff, but completely gaslight people about what happened with Black Adam and saying it was about the regime change and it was about all these other things, except for the fact that it was not a good movie. And he had someone like Kevin Hart, who was his friend, going like, you opened it so great. It opened so well. It didn't even break even. So like, it's just fascinating, the kind of narrative here. And this is where I think we need to be aware of this hero worship of celebrities. Look, this is a business. Gal Gadot is not just out here being the feminist empowerment of Gloria Steinem in a Wonder Woman outfit, okay? She is an actress. There is brand saving. There's a team behind her. It's all about how it all comes off. And yes, of course, she's genuine in a lot of charities and genuine in the things that she believes and fights for. Absolutely, no doubt. But there's also a reality about Hollywood that it is a cynical, tough place to exist in, especially as a woman. And so she's going to use what she needs to use in order to be in a conversation or to promote her most recent project. So, but do you think this is a bit of bad faith? Like, do you think she believes what she's saying is what I'm asking you?
Who can say?
Okay.
Again, it goes back to rule number 1 of Jeff Snyder's reporting, which is don't believe what actors say.
Right. You said this before.
At least publicly. And there's, they say other things in private.
Always.
Never believe what actors say publicly. Okay? They are being fed garbage, whether it's from their reps who are saying, oh, of course they still want you, Gal, baby. Of course, you're going to be Wonder Woman until you're 90 years old, baby. Okay? That's what the rep's job is.
Yeah.
Or their heads being filled with nonsense from these executives who haven't figured out who the next Wonder Woman is. Well, what if we need her? What if we need to bring her back? We better not tell her that she's fired. Like, they're just doing their job, like keeping lines of communication open. But again, this makes no sense to bring her back, especially since the last movie did not do well. No. And clearly, like when Frosty tweets, I've been working on this Wonder Woman story for days. What Wonder Woman? What is the story here? The story is that Warner Brothers is not making a movie that they never said that they were ever going to make. Like, the story is don't believe everything that actors say, and that can go until the end of time.
Sometimes don't even believe what some of these reporters say, because that also is a bit of what story are you working on exactly? Someone said in the chat here that she is Gal Gadot and makes box office bucks. Listen, other than Wonder Woman, what evidence do you have that Gal Gadot brings box office bucks? Don't give me ensemble pieces like Fast and Furious. There's not one film where she has been the lead other than Wonder Woman where she has like shown you box office bucks.
Can't wait to see whatever stat Netflix pulls out to twist Heart of Stone into a success story after this weekend. The most binged action thriller produced by Skydance, released in August. I mean, it's going to be some ridiculous contortion. No one knows that this movie exists. Okay?
Yeah.
No one, like...
She's barely in the trailer.
At a profile.
Yeah.
Heart of Stone supposedly costs $130 million. There's zero profile for this movie.
130 million?
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge, like, and again, you have to keep in mind they're buying out the back end of everybody, right? So they're buying out Gal's back end. This is a big, huge, like, globe-trotting action spy thriller.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, someone said, well, Wonder Woman would have made money if it didn't open day and date. No, you don't know that. Everyone thought Flash was going to make money hand over fist.
It was horrible. That's a bad movie. Like, Black Adam, you may not like. I don't think Black Adam is a bad movie.
Okay.
Wonder Woman 84 is a bad movie.
That is a bad movie on so many levels.
Yeah.
And it would have suffered a terrible fate, I think, if it had come out theatrically. Initially, it had opened big, probably. And then, just like with Flash, I think it would have systematically been destroyed and seen the numbers drop precipitously as it went along. So I'm just, at the end of the day, I just want to encourage you all who watch us. Don't fall into hero worship of these people. It doesn't mean they're not genuine in certain arenas. Of course they are. But when it comes to Hollywood, it's a fucking business. Okay? No one's out here holding hands and skipping through the fucking lilies. It is a business. And people are going to say certain things. Yes, you're heroes too. They're going to say certain things in order to stay at a certain level. No one was a bigger hero to me than The Rock. And watching him during the Black Adam thing was an eye-opening thing for me too. So we all fall into that trap that we buy the purity of these people. But this is not a pure business. And you need to be ruthless in this business in order to survive. So
all she has to talk about is Wonder Woman, basically, because she can't promote the new movie due to the strike rules.
Right. Good point.
Like, almost like these are the only questions she can answer.
Well, that's a great point, Jeff. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, that's a good point.
But I don't know why her reps don't, like, disabuse her of this notion and just be like, yeah, like, enough of this. Give this up. Like, if it happens, great. But, like, we don't need to be running our mouth about it.
Yeah, I think the number one thing is we haven't heard from James Gunn. If James Gunn was behind this thing, he would have tweeted it out and said, absolutely. Just like he did when Patty Jenkins said, I wasn't fired. I walked away from the project and I worked with the people I worked with, but I walked away from it. And James Gunn tweeted out in support of Patty Jenkins. He has not tweeted out in support of what Gal Gadot said. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's his people who were reaching out to Variety as the sources, letting them know that this is not happening. I would not be surprised about that at all. All right, Jeff, where do you want to move on to next? I picked the Wonder Woman thing. What do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about Sound of Freedom since we've put that off for weeks. Did you see the movie, John?
I did not get a chance to see the movie today, brother. Sorry. I was busy today.
You tweeted something that I took great exception to.
Yes, you did.
Which is that there's this story about one of the crowdfunders, which, by the way, I did an interview with the director of Sound of Freedom this morning. And I'm still going to fact check this and read up on the movie and everything. But he said that the crowdfunders paid for like a portion of the P&A. They didn't even like finance the movie. Mm-hmm. Neither here nor there.
That's more than most people know.
One of these individuals has been accused of child kidnapping or whatever.
Right. Yes.
Now, John, like, I don't understand why that's a big deal or why people shouldn't see this movie because one of its 6,500 crowdfunding backers, has been accused of a crime. It's not like we've ever gone through any of these other movies that have been crowdfunded, and done background checks on every single person. I mean, it's just an absurd thing.
Okay. Are you asking me the question?
Yes.
Okay. Everything is in context, is it not? Everything is in context. So you have to put it in context. And first of all, I want to make it clear. I have never told anybody to not see the film. All I've ever said is I'm not going to see the film because of the people involved in making the film. Not the directors, the actor and the person it is based on, and their really wackadoo comments.
Who didn't write the movie and didn't direct the movie.
Right, of course not. No.
Just a movie about a guy.
And look, there's a lot of Latinos involved in this movie. I should be uplifting this movie, supporting this movie, pumping this movie out. But because of the nutball conspiracy comments that both Caviezel and Ballard have made separately before the movie came out and after the movie came out, I don't want to support that project. That's my personal opinion. I think anybody who wants to go see the movie should go see the movie. Now,
you don't have to. Okay. So Jim Caviezel has said some nutty things or whatever.
Sure.
How many actors, do you want to go down the list of actors who have stuck their foot in their mouth or something?
Well, that's a different situation. You're talking about two completely different things because I mean, look at Robert Kennedy Jr., the madness that's coming out of his mouth. And I think
I don't pay attention to politics, John.
No,
so
okay, fine.
That's a big difference between
But you can't do that with a movie like this because the people involved.
Why? I can. I'm just going to see a movie about Jim Caviezel saving some kids from child kidnapping.
Right, but you have to understand that the subject of the movie is involved deeply in politics and is using the narrative of the movie to pump up his status as some kind of hero of child trafficking when numerous child trafficking organizations have come out and said that he's terrible and that he's gotten in the way of missions.
Why is that the movie's fault that Tim Ballard is using the movie to do whatever? Tim Ballard had nothing to do with the movie.
Yes, he did. He was the subject of the movie. In no way was he not an advisor on the film.
How many people are subjects of movies, John, who have nothing to do with the movie themselves? A lot.
Sure, Elvis wasn't alive for the Elvis movie. You're right. But the Elvis family was involved in that movie. The Presley family was involved. So it's a different situation. I mean, isn't it like Braveheart, where it's like William Wallace is like 7 centuries old? If you had done this 7 centuries from now, nobody would give a shit, honestly. But it's because right now, this is a big political issue, child trafficking. The right is using it.
What is political about it? I don't understand. The left and the right both agree.
Of course. But you've got bad agents like Ballard who come forward with nonsense about like Wayfair is smuggling children in furniture packages. And that's the kind of nonsense that is the person they're profiling as some kind of heroic guy. And if you make this guy heroic, then people are just going to see that movie, think he's heroic, and buy his bullshit.
Let me ask you this. This movie was made 5 years ago.
Okay? Yes, it was.
So
yes.
It could not have known any of the crazy things that Tim Ballard would have said in the last 5 years.
Tim Ballard said crazy shit before the movie was made.
Oh, I'm sure he did. But let's just say that comment that you just said, Tim Ballard, Wayfair kids and furniture. Let's say he said that 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
How does that reflect on the movie? They shouldn't have made this movie about this guy who's saying things about kids in boxes at Wayfair. But he said this after the movie was made 5 years ago.
But there's a reason Disney shelved that film. There's a reason. They knew.
Dude, this was a Fox International release.
Right.
Okay. When Disney acquires Fox, all of a sudden, do you think this feels like a Disney Fox movie?
Well, that's what I'm saying. They didn't want to put it out there because they knew that it was bad for their brand.
Sure. Yes. Disney and child kidnapping. It's not good for the brand.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So, that's why. But let's go back to your point.
That's the Disney brand.
Your original point, though, what you were asking me about, the funding guy, right? And I posted this because if you're going to make a movie about the dangers of child trafficking, and there is a person involved in funding the movie who has been arrested for child trafficking.
He was just arrested last week.
Yeah, but it's connected, isn't it? And
I know, Mr. QAnon, is it all connected?
I don't mean that. I'm not trying to be Charlie Day. I'm not trying to be Charlie Day over here. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying. Last week, what does that have to do with the movie that was made 5 years ago?
If I'm a crowdfunder of a film that is about showcasing stopping rape, and I get accused of rape, or I have raped somebody, that's a bad look. That's the point.
Sure, a bad look. So
that's what I'm saying.
Nothing to do with the movie, John. It's a guy at home who's sitting there looking at child porn. Here's $100 to this movie, Sound of Freedom. Child porn. What does the movie? Why is the movie should pay for the crimes of what this guy is browsing? Sent them $100.
Right, but that's the whole point of it, isn't it? Because this is what happens, and a lot of people who study how these predators work, they understand that a lot of these people who are predators contribute to child protective causes, volunteer at schools to help children so they can be close to them. So it's that kind of thing that they should have vetted. This kind of movie should have vetted. This isn't like Fast and Furious 7.
500 people in the event, just in case. Folks,
yes, of course.
These people are pedophiles.
What if a bunch of neo-Nazis? What if a bunch of neo-Nazis crowdfunded a Jewish-supported film? Wouldn't you think, like, what the fuck is going on here? Wouldn't you have questions about it, Jeff? As a Jewish person, wouldn't this make you concerned?
If you're the director and the producer,
I'm not trying to go to Nazis, by the way.
You're like, John, you sound ridiculous.
No, I don't. No, I don't.
I'm literally explaining step by step how ridiculous you sound. If you're the producer and the director and you put this movie out on a crowdfunding platform and you watch as $100 donations come in,
Yeah.
You're telling me that they should have vetted all 6,500 people who donated that money.
All I heard was 5,000. Is it 6,500? I already heard 5,000.
Who gives a shit, John? Let's say it was 1,000 people. They should have vetted all 1,000 backers. They should have done background checks. Now, what would have turned up in this guy's background check? Because he was arrested last week.
Yeah, but he's got a history of doing these things on his Facebook posts and in other areas. So they would have found a history.
A backer's Facebook post, John? What are you talking about?
Yeah, well, this is the danger, isn't it? If you're going to crowdfund, this is the danger.
Like, responsible because a serial killer came in and bought like a fucking soda there. Like, what are you talking
That's
about?
not even remotely.
Or bought a saw at Home Depot, so it's Home Depot. What?
That's ridiculous. That's not even remotely compared to what I'm saying.
This is just a movie that solicited contributions from people, and this guy happened to make one.
Right. So it became a story because it was about child trafficking. That's the fucking point. And this dude, who's one of the producers, Leo Severino, it came out that he was apparently grooming a 15-year-old girl when she was in high school, and he was a youth pastor in his 30s, and he ended up marrying her. So when you get people who are around a film,
true love,
having this message. What
if it's true love, just like Woody Allen, John? I mean,
yeah, but is Woody Allen making films about child trafficking?
And by the way,
you're purposely being obtuse about this because the subject matter does connect to these things.
No, John. How old was he when he was a youth pastor? Do you know?
He was 30, in his 30s.
How old is he now?
He is in his, I don't know, 50s, 60s?
That's right. So this is 20 years ago, okay? Are people not allowed to make mistakes and then say, geez, I've seen...
He married her, Jeff. They're still married.
Because they're in love, I assume.
Oh, yeah, that's how it works. Because they're in love. She couldn't have possibly been groomed, Jeff. She couldn't have possibly been manipulated, Jeff. What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
Maybe she was. Maybe she wasn't.
Yes.
John. Maybe she wasn't.
Yes. Anyway.
You know nothing about this case.
I know a lot about this case. I just haven't seen the movie. That's the difference. And I won't, and I don't know if I will, because Jeff said I can go sign up on the website and get a free ticket. So there may come a time where I finally go see it. But my complaints are not about the movie existing or anybody. You can go see it. I in no way am trying to make the movie not exist. I'm trying to offer context on the things surrounding the movie and the people involved with the movie. That's my only approach to this. It is not about
context. Means not like you can't just say, well, here's all the context, and the context is not the movie. You actually haven't seen the movie. There's nothing about QAnon or anything like that in the movie.
You don't know because you've never studied QAnon, Jeff. So you want to talk about not knowing what you're talking about.
I didn't hear the dog whistles. I didn't hear the dog whistles.
You don't know the fucking dog whistles to hear them, Jeff.
You are.
You know, as much as I didn't see the movie, you saw the movie without QAnon knowledge. I could go see the movie with QAnon knowledge and pick them out for you. And if we lived in the same city, I would do that as a hot mic special video, is us going to go see it with cameras on us and me pointing out to you every term that refers to fucking QAnon, man. So just throwing that out there. Anyway.
Sound of Freedom, I think has been a smash success because I think in part of, you know, the way that the media's treated the movie, like this redheaded stepchild. Now, some of it is that it has gotten lost in the Barbenheimer phenomenon of it all. But the truth is that the media has not given this movie the credit that it deserves. It's not a great movie. It's a pretty generic, harmless movie. Like that, I see 20 of these movies debut every month on VOD. There's nothing special about it whatsoever. It's just become this cause celeb because of the way it's being released and the pay it forward model. And like, it's gotten wrapped up in this political battle that it has nothing to do with.
You don't know if it has anything to do with it.
I do know. I saw the movie. I interviewed the director today. It has nothing. He knows nothing about this stuff.
Jeff, you just said don't trust actors. You're going to trust directors, though, who are trying to support their movie? What the fuck is wrong with you? You're playing a shell game, convenient shell game here in this situation, and you know it. Directors lie all the fucking time, okay? We just lost one who lied through.
Maybe he's secretly QAnon, Alejandro.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that he knows what QAnon is, man. So just to let you guys know, QAnon is a far-right political movement rooted in a baseless conspiracy theory that the world is controlled by the deep state, a cabal of Satan-worshipping pedophiles, and that former President Donald Trump is the only person who can defeat it. And that is what QAnon is. Honestly, they think Democrats are at the bottom of pizza parlors drinking the blood of children, and they are trafficking children in order to stay in power. This is the nuttiness.
How many people are part of this movement, John?
A lot. Millions of people are part of this movement. And here's the truth. They're from both sides, by the way. A lot of far left people who are like the health conscious people and all, they've swung over to be part of QAnon. The New York Times did a wonderful breakdown of that and an article on it if you guys want to find it. So it is both sides of the political spectrum who have slid into this QAnon dark hole and have embraced this nuttiness full on. And it's scary to see, man. I mean, the guy that was just shot up in Utah.
Here's what's scary to see. You're an otherwise smart film critic. And you won't go see a movie, okay? Because you're afraid of its politics.
I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of its politics.
Well, how can you say you disagree with its politics because you don't know what the politics are because you haven't seen the movie?
I don't know. I said I don't want to support a guy who is, I know to be an unstable nut job, and I don't want to go see him.
How are you supporting him?
By going to see the movie and in an energy way supporting that film. And I don't want to with my time.
It's not
with my time and my energy, and I believe in that. I don't want to support it, and I have every right to do that, right? You know why I didn't see the Jeffrey Dahmer series on Netflix? Because I didn't want to fucking support it. I didn't enough, and the family had been through too much, and I felt me watching it would just add in some way to that kind of fucking energy.
You're a saint, John. You're a saint.
I'm not a saint.
The family appreciates you, and everyone like you who didn't watch Dahmer out of respect.
It's just a personal choice.
The soul's upstairs, dude. Johnny,
I don't want to see it.
I don't blame you. Just like I don't blame anyone, like any Jews who don't want to watch a Mel Gibson movie. Like right. Okay, you don't want to watch a Woody Allen movie. That's your right. That's not me. I'll never be that person. Yeah, I will always be able to separate the art from the artist. And having done so, I can look at this art objectively and say, there's nothing in here that would raise any flag whatsoever.
That you know of because you've never studied QAnon or don't know the phrase.
I should hit the QAnon books, John. I'm gonna send away from my QAnon.
Don't. Oh my God, I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose you because you of all people, once you grab onto a conspiracy theory, it's all over. So I don't know if I want you.
I don't grab onto conspiracy theories, John. I'm not one of these people.
Bullshit. You said David Stern fixed the draft for the Knicks. You've said that before, so don't give me that fucking shit.
Everyone knows that's what happened.
Anyway, all right, let's take what's his face's advice here and move on. Well, we're at the 30-minute mark, so we should take a break here. 538 of you watching us right now. Thank you very much. Make sure you hit a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm sure a lot of you down in the comment section after you watch this section are going to leave some shitty comments, but do it anyway. And we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with some StreamLabs and Super Chats and move on with the rest of the show. Oh man, I got to get my throat back right after this.
Let's talk about Vanity Fair.
Woo, what? No, I don't have the energy to go right into that one yet. Let's hit some StreamLabs and Super Chats first. Miguel Zane says, when do you all think we'll get the other Soups legacy casting? Lex Luthor, Paul Ma Kent, Perry White, and what do y'all think about this new rumored Middle East plot? Yeah, I saw that drop the other day as well, Jeff. I don't know if they should. I mean, didn't Wonder Woman 2 try that Middle East shit? Like, stay out of there, man. Stay the fuck out of there. But we probably won't see the casting till the strikes are settled, right, Jeff?
Yeah, I would say no casting until after the SAG strike is settled. No thoughts on the Mideastern plot. I don't know if that's true. I don't care if it is either way.
I hope just stay out of there. That seems like a bad idea. Blake Hinton says, hi, John and Jeff. Thank you for always doing a great show. Jeff, heard anything more about PTA's most likely delayed until the strike is over film?
No, I haven't.
Really? Okay. All right. Good to know. Francisco Lopez says, hey, guys, how much longer will Warner Brothers Discovery wait before moving Dune 2 and other films to 2024? Also, if Dune 2 does move, do you think Dune 2's IMAX time will be the same or will it be shorter if it moves? Interesting. Why would it be shorter, Jeff?
IMAX.
Do you mean? Does he mean IMAX time like in the theaters or IMAX time?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's probably what he means. Okay. That's a good question because if it moves to 2024, there may already be movies with screens. booked then. So it may have to find a certain window, which could affect how long it runs on IMAX. I don't think it's going to move though. And I said that whether it was last week or 2 weeks ago, where I just didn't get that feeling that it was going to move. I think that the strike could be settled by then, and that it's coming out in November, right?
Yes, it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I suspect that the actors will be available by then to promote it.
Okay, fair point. Cody Hunt says, love that Marvel on-set VFX artists voted to unionize with Yahtzee. 50 to 53 percent workers voted yes. Hopefully Disney voluntarily recognizes them. Yeah, Jeff, let's talk about that for a little bit. That was a big story, the unionization of the VFX workers. That was something, of course, has been a big thing over the last few months as that article was dropped talking about by Chris Lee, I think, talking about VFX artists and what they went through. And we just had the animator stuff that dropped just a few weeks ago as well, around Across the Spider-Verse part 1. So what are your thoughts on the VFX artists unionizing? Do you like this? Does this mean even more of a slower grind? Are we going to get less films with VFX, or do you think this is a positive step in that direction overall?
I think that VFX workers are probably treated even worse than writers and actors.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, it's terrible. I have a friend, he works for a big company, and they haven't been getting any work, obviously, right? Because the pipeline's basically shut down. And so they've had to let everybody go. People who just got there. Said, don't worry, you're all going to be allowed to reapply for your jobs.
Yeah.
Where? In Mumbai. Okay. That's where all this work gets outsourced now in India, because they don't have to follow overtime laws and they don't have to do all kinds of stuff. So the whole VFX industry seems like it's moving, to India. I think that, what these strikes have sort of shown, it's going to be even beyond the actors and the writers, and even beyond Hollywood. You're going to see a lot of places pushing for unionization. And just certain protections, because it's clear that basically, our bosses and our corporate overlords no longer have our best interests at heart.
Nope.
So if we're not going to fight for ourselves and our own protections, who is?
Right.
So that's what I think, will happen with everything. I think it's great that the Marvel VFX artists are banding together, because they are, totally overworked and underpaid, and it's just not safe. It's not healthy. It's, there's terrible burnout in that industry, and yeah,
there's a lot. And just to give you guys a little heads up, VFX workers do not have the same protections given to other unionized workers, such as protected hours or overtime pay. And they are among the most, they are one of the biggest outliers in Hollywood's below the line workers. And Jeff, I imagine, we've seen worker empowerment since COVID, during the pandemic, and afterwards, how worker empowerment has really forced these companies to step up to the plate and increase what they pay workers. We saw that quiet quitting for a while, but that seems to, the numbers are going down for unemployment, numbers are going up for jobs. But this is the one area in Hollywood with AI and all this stuff going on that it's fascinating to me. The VFX artists, it took this long in 2023 just to have a vote to unionize. Doesn't mean they're going to be unionized. They're just voting to unionize. And then the process begins with Yahtzee saying what that's going to be all about. So it's going to be a while till we see it. Yeah.
It's much like the animators, where it's like, listen, I don't have a problem with Phil Lord coming in at the last second and ripping up your work and saying, we're going to do it better. That's why he's the producer, the director. And if he thinks he can make a better movie, more power to him. But do I think that the animators should be paid to stay late and redo that work? Of course. And that's the problem, is that the industry has just become enamored with all this free work that it's basically been getting for years and years and years by people who don't want to rock the boat. And people are sick of it now. They are going back to the negotiating table tomorrow. But at the same time, I do think that writers have to understand that the industry that they're going to be coming back to is not the industry that existed on May 2nd. It's going to be a totally different ball game. And even if they got paid twice as much, which is what's going to happen, but even if they got paid twice as much, it's because there's going to be half as many jobs.
Fair point. That's going to be interesting to see the reactions too. Don Ronaldo says, I have a question. Is the movie any good? Talking about Sound of Freedom. Jeff, is the movie any good?
I liked it
overall,
but it's nothing special. It's not necessarily worth seeing in a theater. It's too long. Jim Caviezel, not a great actor, but it's
How
very
dare you?
but it's very well made. It's like very well shot. The cinematography is good. The music's good. There's a certain intensity to it, particularly the first half, which is more creepy than it is like action thriller. And the kids are very good. So, you know, I thought it was like a decent VOD rental, basically.
There you go. Okay. Good to go. Good to know. Fantastic says, Jeff sounds like my Theo, saying he doesn't believe in all that conspiracy crap, then spewing the same exact crap. There you
What
go.
am I spewing?
I don't know.
What conspiracy?
I don't know. Mitch Jensen says, are either of you planning on checking out the Old Boy 4K re-release in theaters next week? And I'm so excited. Yeah, Jeff, I've been invited three separate screenings, but they're up in LA. I wish they'd have a 4K screening down here in San Diego. I'd immediately go. I love the original Old Boy. Have you ever seen it?
I love the original Old Boy. It's like one of the movies that I kind of credit Harry Knowles for turning me on to.
Oh, nice.
Who I know is in the doghouse these days.
Sure.
And but yeah, like that he turned me on to a lot of interesting Asian cinema that I'm not sure I would have paid attention to when I was in college, had it not been for Ain't It Cool. So totally in support of this new 4K re-release. I RSVP'd to a couple of screenings, but missed all of them. They all conflicted with other screenings. Okay. I would have loved to have seen this on the big screen, and maybe I'll go check it out. I have it, here on DVD, Blu-ray.
Yeah, I have it as well. But yeah, seeing it on the screen would be fun. And there's a number of IMAX theaters down here. Maybe it'll show on one of those or on one of the big screens. Robert Gianquinta says, I find it crazy that some people think that deals are being made for actors for future projects as we speak. First day strike is over. There will be tons of deals announced that day, just like sports free agency. Jeff, do you want to clarify that? Because we were talking about...
I think what Robert's saying is he's saying, I find it crazy that some people think deals are being made for actors.
Maybe aren't. Maybe he meant to say aren't.
Right, because it's like then he's saying first day strike is over. There's going to be deals announced. Yeah, because they were discussed during the strike.
Yeah.
I mean, we sort of talked about this last week with Fantastic Four. I know Drew McWeeny had his thoughts on Twitter. God bless Drew. I love him. But he
the Godfather. Yeah.
Sure, but he was just like, listen, there aren't any deals, and there aren't. I'm not saying that there are. I'm not saying Marvel confirmed any of that news last week, but from what I'm told, like whether this was agreed upon during the strike or whether it's been communicated to them before, whatever the timing is, this is when the dust settles after this thing. Those are the two you're going to see.
Again, stop being idealistic. Okay. Actors need to work. Actors need to pay. We just had the story this week. Billy Porter is losing his house, according to him, because a film that he was going to be in was canceled because of strike, and a series he was going to be in was being canceled because of the strike. Okay. So you'd have to be blind to not think that actors who are always desperate for validation and success and money, especially at that level, aren't finding a way around the rules or regulations to negotiate this stuff with studios in private situations. And you'd also be a fool not to think there aren't loose lips in this town for people who might know about those negotiations. So in that town, rather, I don't live in LA.
I just think it's like if they, maybe they met with 100 actors before the strike, and now they're going through the tapes, and now they've made a decision. Or I think it's naive to think that people aren't using this strike to their advantage somehow.
If you've never been an actor, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. That's kind of how I look at it. So Jay Blink says, thoughts on Dwayne Johnson's comments about Black Adam when talking to Kevin Hart? Maybe it's just me, but I don't feel like he's learned anything. That's just Dwayne. Like, Dwayne has a narrative. He has to push that narrative. And there are a number of people who want to believe that narrative in his fan base. Dwayne is playing the us against them card, which he loves to play when it's necessary. I saw someone say the other day, like, oh yeah, $7 Productions. Like, his family didn't have a lot of money down in Hawaii, and he wasn't a legacy in the wrestling business. And that's a fair criticism. Dwayne had money. He may not have had his own money, but he certainly had money to rely on. But this whole situation here, I think, is just Dwayne with a narrative about Black Adam. And he's a businessman, bro. And that's what he does. And he pushes that narrative to make it seem like he's the victim of the situation so that people feel sympathy and pity for him and connection for him to him and want to support him for the next project that he's got going on. It's smart. It's smart. So Jeff, your thoughts on that?
I mean, I just think nobody cares about Black Adam. Could have been, Tom Cruise, could have been DiCaprio. Didn't matter who was playing Black Adam. Nobody cares about Black Adam. That's not the superhero people wanted to see the Rock as.
Yeah. Dusty Python says, I saw photographs from the movie The Bike Riders. Looks good. Could be a surprise hit in December with Tom Hardy, Jodie Comer, and Austin Butler. That's a hell of a cast, Jeff. Have you heard anything about this one?
I'm excited about it. I've heard it's good, not maybe like a standout, but yeah, it's from Jeff Nichols, who I think is a really good director. You ever see Shotgun Stories? You ever see his first movie?
No, I did not. Shotgun Stories?
Try to track down Shotgun Stories.
Okay, I'll put it on my list.
Canon.
We got a number of Streamlabs real quick, so I'm going to get through them in the next 5 minutes. So, okay, I am too like Cam says, wow, I just have to say Gal Gadot attempting to push a Wonder Woman 3 getting slapped down today by Collider was the highlight for me. To be fair, it was Variety who published that story first. Did she really just make that up, or do you think Gunn is two-faced with actors? Also, I can't wait to gamble away on a Disney app. I think we addressed pretty much all of that, Jeff. Anything you want to add to what I'm too like Cam is asking?
Yes, I think that James Gunn's job now as a studio executive is to manage relations with talent.
Yes.
And that is exactly what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, he's not going to say, listen, you're no longer Wonder Woman. You'll never play Wonder Woman again until he has a plan for, well, Wonder Woman is popping up here in this project and we're going with a different actress. Yeah. Why would he say anything otherwise to her?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Doug Developer says, I do feel sorry for Gal Gadot. She seems like a very chill person, but her looks are more of a curse than a blessing. She's 5'11" and out of this world stunning. Even if she were to have Streep's talent, how many roles are there out there for her to play? If she had Streep's talent with her looks, she would be having to turn down projects all the time. What are you talking about, Doug? She's not the most talented actress most of the time, but she certainly nailed it in that first Wonder Woman movie. And I think people have been chasing that performance ever since. So I don't think her looks are a curse. It's just that it's not coupled with this incredible talent like Meryl Streep, or else she'd be working all the time like Emily Blunt or Scarlett Johansson. There are plenty of beautiful women in Hollywood who work all the time because they're extremely talented.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. I'm too flat. Cam says, God help me if they do another cringe cameo with Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman in any future DC movies. Enough is enough. I thought her and Patty were a team anyway. Also, I hope Disney sells Star Wars. It deserves more than what Disney is capable, it seems. Sell Star Wars, Iger. Well, there you go. All right.
All these superhero cameos, all like that shit is sailed. That is like,
yeah,
you know, enough of that stuff. Do you remember the amazing cameo in The Dark Knight? There wasn't.
You mean the Scarecrow cameo in The Dark Knight?
Are we calling that a cameo? You didn't have fucking characters coming out and taking a bow like they do now. It's
right. Fair point. Your Anon says, I agree with Jeff. John, you're sounding crazy. Oh, there you go. Always one. Joe says, Jeff, can you address people saying Vanessa Kirby and Joseph Quinn have not been cast because of the strike? How confident are you at this time they will end up in the roles? Can we expect an official announcement right after the strike ends? Yeah, Jeff, do you want to add anything more to what you said earlier about?
Yeah, it's like I don't want to put a number on it because look at how it backfired so quickly the last time. But pretty confident. Pretty confident it'll be these two. When someone says that they haven't been cast, okay, what does cast mean? You know, does cast mean that a deal's been signed? Does cast mean that they've been told that, listen, this role is going to you, start training?
Yeah.
You know, like it's a nebulous term.
I want to come out a little more strongly here. If you're not a person with sources and you don't break stories or break scoops, or if you haven't spent your career developing these sources, grooming, for lack of a better term, these sources, vetting these sources, not like crowdfunding, but vetting these sources, then who are you to tell a person who does do this for a living that they're fucking wrong? You have no experience to make that comment. This is frustrating as hell to me, you know, to see that, because yes, sometimes you're wrong, Jeff, but most of the time you're right. A lot of people laughed at us for the Star Wars prediction on Filoni, and then bang, it was announced that night at the Star Wars celebration. So it's just ridiculous to me to people who don't have any sources, don't work to have any sources, don't try to get information from sources, even if they have any, are going to be here like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I know what I'm talking about, with no absolute knowledge of the situation. It's ridiculous to me. So I just wanted to throw that.
That's the thing. It's like, there's a lot of grifters out there, a lot of
Yeah.
These anonymous Twitter accounts where you don't even know who the reporter is that you're trusting.
Right.
Some fucking handle. I'd like to think that my track record speaks for itself.
Yeah.
I was obviously more confident in the Vanessa Kirby of it all last week than I was the Jack Quaid. I put a different number on that than the Jack Quaid thing because it was coming from, a different source.
Right.
And then when I said Jack Quaid, that source reached out and was like, oh no, you have it backwards. It's, so it's just like, I've been doing this a long fucking time, and I'm only going to say something if I know where it's coming from and who said it. And I'm honest. Like, I couldn't let that Jack Quaid thing just fucking hang out there.
I know.
Last time.
Yeah.
I didn't have to say, oh shit. Like, I think I got it wrong. My source just like texted.
Right.
But yeah, I don't want misinformation out there. That was the whole goal of last week's show was to say there's a ton of misinformation floating around out there. I'm going to do my best to correct the record. And in doing so, I made that record a little bit worse for about 20 minutes. Which time Jack Quaid's just like waiting on Twitter for this fucking news to break so that he can respond to it. Thank you, Jed. No, I do.
But he responded in a very respectful way. He didn't respond.
I apologize to Jack Quaid.
He didn't come after you and be like, Jeff's an idiot. He didn't know what he's talking about. He was very calm about it. Yeah.
Thank you, Jack.
Exactly.
But yeah, it even makes more sense. Joseph Quaid and Vanessa Kirby are both Brits.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. I was like, oh, that's Jack Quaid.
Yeah, and behind the scenes, I will tell you my personal interactions with Jeff for a number of years now. Jeff's very clear about who he cites as sources. In fact, he makes sure if I get a source, the things I need to do to make sure this person is a legitimate source for what he's talking about or what they are talking about. And so Jeff takes pride in that. And so people like to come after you. And look, I'll let them come after you on certain things for sure. But on this, I can't. There's a professional integrity you have that you have developed from the beginning since you got in this business, and you worked your way up. You're not a YouTuber hunting clicks.
John, you're the only other person on the planet who knows who I spoke to for the Fantastic Four.
Yes, you're right.
That scoop is going out under our podcast sort of name, and so I wanted John to be aware, of where it's coming from and how confident we should feel in it. And I think if John had any real hangups or doubts about it, he would have said something last week too.
You guys know if I don't believe Jeff on something, I will say it on the show. I don't have any qualms.
Just like I've told, poo-pooed John stuff.
My John Boyega stuff, he has poo-pooed very strongly. So
right.
All right, one last thing. Eric_Shun with another Paul Mescal project announced FOE with Saoirse Ronan along with Gladiator 2. And watch out for his gay romance film coming out this year with Andrew Scott. Do you guys think we have the next young star in our hands? Feels like he's on his way. Yeah, I think so, right?
Yes. No, I definitely do. I think Paul Mescal is going to be a big star.
Yeah.
I think he's a very talented guy, and he has the kind of looks that lend themselves to like a long career. I mean, some actors, they're beautiful in their 20s and their looks kind of fade or whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't think not that he's not a very handsome, attractive guy, but like, there's character to his face. He's not just some pretty boy who is only being cast because he's attractive.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of which, Greg Castillo says, Rocha, I think your looks are a curse. I agree. They are. I'm ugly as fuck. If I was better looking, I'd have way more subscribers and people on board on this channel. So.
That movie Photo sounds just like the Black Mirror episode with Hartnett and Aaron Paul. Like,
oh yeah,
they may have gotten scooped.
Maybe.
Movies get scooped sometimes.
That's true. All right, let's move on to this. Now that I've got my chance to rest through these things, let's move on to this Vanity Fair thing that you want to talk about. And I'm going to bring up the StreamLab. Dalton Johnson thought his thing got skipped. No, Dalton. I run the show. I have to make sure when things are scheduled to drop. So here's your super chat that's going to lead us into this story. Dalton Johnson says, in regards to the Feinberg story, is there really a hierarchy to who gets to see what awards contenders first and what goes into that? Love the show. So let's give some context here. Scott Feinberg, there was an email that was leaked that he sent to a number of publicists and studio representatives here. And I'm going to bring up a graphic so you guys can read along with me on this situation. So we're all on the same page with this kind of thing. So here, let me bring it up. Here it is. This is what Scott said. As you plan the rollout of your films, I would like to respectfully ask that you not show films to any of my fellow awards pundits before you show them to me, even if that person represents himself or herself to you as a potential reviewer of it, B, needing to see the film in order to be part of decisions about covers, or really anything else. We feel that doing so is plainly unfair to THR as it puts us at a competitive disadvantage, especially at Film Fest, where every second counts. It is not unreasonable to ask you to insist that someone is either an awards pundit or a critic/cover editor, but not both, at least during awards season. And then Jeff, he went on to imply that there would be repercussions if they didn't adhere to this for future THR roundtables, junkets, and awards shows. Now, Penske Media came out, walked Scott's comments back, and said, well, there's not going to be repercussions. Scott just wanted everything to be fair. But a number of other pundits took offense to what Scott said. A number of other writers and critics took offense to what Scott said and said he was out of bounds in saying the things that he said, and implying that these people were not reviewers as well was really offensive to them. So, Scott's got a history of putting his foot in his mouth, certainly with the Harvey Weinstein tweet, with the Letitia Wright situation, certainly some of the bullshit he pulled with the HJA articles, in my personal opinion. So what are your thoughts on the comments here? Because a lot of people came after Scott for sounding like a whiny, privileged writer from a big publication outlet, trying to curry favor here, get favorable treatment. So
I don't know who thinks that this email was aimed at them. It's aimed at like one or two people, and I'm certain it wasn't whoever was complaining or whoever you saw.
Whoever leaked it? Yeah.
This is aimed at Pete Hammond.
Okay? Oh, wow. Okay.
Because
of all people, Pete Hammond, he's been reviewing films for years.
But he's the awards columnist. Is he the awards columnist for Deadline, or is he the critic? That is what Scott is getting at here.
Okay.
Because people will say, oh, well, okay, this screening's just for critics. All right, well, I'm a critic. I'm here to review. Scott knows he's not a critic.
Right.
But like Pete straddles this line. And there's certain, and listen, Pete gets shown everything early because he's Deadline and he's Pete.
And he's been doing it for decades, man. Yeah.
But like, I if anything, I don't really know why Scott had to send an email like this. This is the kind of email I would send.
This is the kind of tweet you would send. Let's be real.
Perceive myself to be the underdog. Okay. Yeah. Scott is the leader. I mean, I think Scott is the #1 premier awards columnist. So it's like, if you're not showing your movies to him, who are you showing your movies to?
Right.
That's what I didn't get about it. But as far as him sending it, totally a ridiculous story for Vanity Fair, particularly from someone like Rebecca Ford, who worked at Hollywood Reporter, knows how it goes there, knows the privilege and the access that these places are afforded and stuff like that.
Right.
I mean, I frankly thought that this whole article was like posted in jealousy, because I don't think that Vanity Fair is anywhere close to on the level of the Hollywood Reporter when it comes to awards. And I think that they could be. I mean, they're fucking Vanity Fair, but they don't have anybody with a strong voice or a strong perspective. I don't mean that as any slight to any of the writers over there, but you used to go to Vanity Fair for real voices. And now it's all fucking bland and safe. Sorry. Scott is doing what any good reporter should do, which is fight for access for his outlet. Like it's really no different than when I tweeted, I should be at the top of Hollywood's call sheet. I should be the #1 most important call on your call sheet.
You did say that.
Do you think that I should be sitting here saying, call me whenever you get around to it? Call me 7th. No, it's call me first. It's the same reason there's 50 guys in the NFL who aren't named Justin Jefferson who think they're the best wide receiver in the league. Right? That's how you have to think. That's the mentality you have to have.
Right.
And if you can't write an email like this, that Scott Feinberg, I think, has fucking balls to write, and more power to him, you shouldn't be in this line of work. Okay? Scott, let me tell you who has the leverage here. Scott Feinberg does.
Why?
You don't be as part of Hollywood Reporters roundtables. Do whatever you want. Show the movie to who you want. Show it to Deadline and Variety. But of course, they're going to give preference to people who show them movies early. Why wouldn't they?
Right.
Okay? You can call that a big no-no, because whoever gives one of the best performances should be in the actors roundtable. Okay? But if it's a close call, why aren't we giving preference to the publicist of the awards team that is giving us, preferential treatment? That is the whole point of trade. It's in the fucking name, people. Trade. Quid pro quo. Something
for something else. Okay, fair. So the Raps Scott Pond responded to all of this, and he said, Steve Pond, rather, sorry, said Scott has every right to request equal treatment with his competitors.
Yes.
However, inartfully, he made that request. But some awards analysts, among them Deadline Awards columnist and chief film critic Pete Hammond, and myself, do in fact review movies.
Right.
To suggest that we only claim to be reviewers or represent ourselves as reviewers in order to see movies ahead of time is incorrect and offensive. So even his colleagues are calling Feinberg out for this comment.
But they do it. But they do it.
But it wasn't jealousy that they're calling them out on. And listen, this is fascinating because you had your time now. Let me go back on this. You're willing to call Vanity Fair jealous over Scott Feinberg rather than putting character strikes on Scott Feinberg. You'd rather put phantom character strikes with no actual evidence on Vanity Fair. But there is plenty of evidence on Scott Feinberg's character and his cockiness and his sense of entitlement. There is plenty of evidence.
Look, we're not doing this.
No, what?
The Letitia Wright stuff, John, what does this have to do with awards access?
It's a character trait. This idea that I can say what I want. God damn it. I can say what I want. I can email what I want because I'm the big cheese. That's a character trait, Jeff. I don't have to adhere to any rules. I don't have to interview certain people because I've got my angle on my story and I'm going to tell it my way. Well, guess what? You get smoked sometimes, like saying Harvey Weinstein could have promoted She Said better than Universal. What the fuck? It's a matter of feeling like you're untouchable. And so you think you can say whatever. And then when you don't, you shut down your Twitter. If you're a coward, if you shut down your Twitter, you're a coward. If you're going to say your shit, stand behind.
I'm not going to call Scott a coward. I think
I will.
I think he was presented with some probably options. And the move was, let me just shut down the Twitter. I mean, that's the safe thing to do. If anyone really wants to work at the trades for Penske, let me be the first person to give them this advice. Get off Twitter. Okay.
You're probably right.
A couple of jobs.
You're 100% right.
But like Scott, so when Scott says, I would like to respectfully ask that you not show films to any of the awards pundits before you show them to me. A lot of people interpreted that as show them to me first. Instead of just don't let them see it before me. I should be seeing these movies at the same time. And he should.
Right. There's nothing. I have no problem with that section of the email. Absolutely zero. It's the threatening that comes near the end of the email. That's the issue, Jeff.
But that's see, and I feel like I've gotten in trouble for that before. Where listen, and people even said that, I think, in one of the write-ups. It was like a mafia type, like, oh, well, maybe you have an accident. Maybe the restaurant burns down, right? But it's the truth.
Hey, that's a nice movie. Be ashamed if something happened to it.
Yes. Don't be surprised if this is the result and you're not part of the round table or, whatever it is. Yeah. And it's just like that's the leverage that we have as journalists. And it's why I frankly think that journalists are always going to be a higher up on the rungs than a publicist. Okay? Yeah. Because we have the power. It's our pen. People write people read what we write.
Yeah.
If the publicists want to write the shit, go ahead and put it out on your 42west.net website. Like respect has to be paid. And he's the Hollywood Reporter and he's earned it. So pay him the respect. And if you don't, then you will not be met with respect.
But don't you think publicists have gotten emails like this for decades from people in the business and didn't leak it because they felt it was in bounds to want to fight for your outlet, want to fight for access? But it was this extra part where he said, moving forward, THR may take that into consideration during the booking of roundtables, podcasts, and other coverage. So in essence, it is like a mafia thing. It's a nice movie. Be ashamed if something happened to it.
Why shouldn't he? This is a competitive thing. You're up against Variety and Deadline and all these other outlets, trying to get the same dollars.
Let's take your logic all the way to its natural conclusion. You're essentially saying that every single outlet should be able to hold this kind of leverage on all these studios and publicists and exercise it freely as they see
only
fit.
The outlets that really have the power and the leverage, and the Hollywood Reporter is one of those. You can't be some Joe Schmo awards blogger sending that email saying, I demand this access, because you don't carry the weight in the industry. But voters read Scott Feinberg. And so if you don't let him see the movie and they go to Clayton or Pete to read about the movie, that does put Scott at a disadvantage. And if I was Scott, I would retaliate in some way. I feel like that was a knock on me as a reporter, is that I was retaliatory. In fact, I can even bring up an example.
Okay.
It was I had the scoop that I think it was Guillermo was going to do, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, and the other guy was going to be directing. I forget the fucking name. And I think that they gave it to Deadline because Guillermo gives everything to Deadline, to Fleming, Gary Unger, Guillermo's guy, basically. And I wrote a story that I will take the smallest amount of credit. I think it spurred Guillermo to make Shape of Water, which won Best Picture and won a Emmy. Because I wrote a story for the Wrap that ripped this guy apart.
Guillermo del Toro
apart for all he just made crap. He'd been producing crap for years, making what I thought was crap for years, like Pacific Rim.
Yeah, that was not a good movie. I don't disagree with you there.
Crimson Peak garbage.
Yeah, Crimson Peak is not good. Yeah,
dude. And then he went off and made a serious movie after I tore his ass to shreds. And I remember getting a call from WME, and they were pissed about that. And they were just like, "You're retaliating. You're making." And it's like, you know what? Yeah, I am. I can make this guy look however the fuck I want him to look. I can make him look great. And it's like with sports writers and stats, John. You can make the same set of stats say two totally different things.
Yeah, well, that's why it's dangerous. And that's why I don't know sometimes, and I'm going to include you in this, I don't know sometimes that you all should be allowed to do that, to be honest with you. From my personal experience.
Oh, you want to give the studios that power?
I don't want to give anybody that power. So I don't know that you acting like the studios levels the fucking playing field. I think it makes it worse.
Studios need a smack. You need an email like that. Not every now and then.
I don't disagree with you. I don't
remind them who has the real power here. It's Scott.
Do they?
Scott's fucking articles. It's not them.
But I don't know that they do have the power anymore, Jeff. And this brings us, we're going to get into this bigger debate about critics versus influencers. I said this in my tweet about his email, that power is dissipating. If you think millions and millions of people are online reading Scott Feinberg's awards chatter, you're insane, okay? Or listening to his podcast. I bet my numbers do better for my Cinephiles podcast.
100% on that. No one's listening to any of the trade podcasts. The trade podcast.
That's what I'm getting. So where's the power come from? Yeah, right. It's an illusion. Where's the power come from? It does. It's influencers. I think critics and pundits and writers, I think they're all losing, including me, losing status in this whole situation because influencers are taking their spots. Young people are not turning to critics to listen to them, to any awards pundit. And no offense to Feinberg, who's built the career that he's built.
Young people aren't voting for the Oscars, John. Listen, you're right. That you're absolutely right when you say that influencers are taking over.
Right.
And that is who audiences are paying attention to.
Yes.
Who's driving box office, but not awards.
Right.
You can't have some TikToker go on and start saying, well, so-and-so deserves best actor. No one gives a shit in the industry. They give a shit what Scott and Clayton and Pete think. And yeah, maybe a handful of others.
Right.
Okay. But in general, that power is being consolidated, and Scott has it. And I don't mind that flex whatsoever.
That's fair. But I think that piece of land that they've all been standing on has been eroding every year as people care less and less about award shows. As people, I mean, I was going to put it on this rundown, but I can bring it now attached. Sky is not going to be showing the Oscars in the UK anymore. They're not going to put it on TV. Maybe another channel will come in and take it, or service will come in and take it at a lower number, and they'll put it on TV. But that tells you award shows are dying. So these people writing about them, their status is diminishing every fucking day, and their importance to the industry is diminishing every fucking day. If a bunch of white actresses can hold screenings and influence a vote for a Reesboro to be nominated, how powerful are these writers anymore? And that's the sad truth that we're getting to. And as more of these outlets hire Chat GPT or find AI to write these articles, eventually none of it's going to fucking matter. And that's the sad truth of it all,
I mean, I guess I don't really see AI replacing Oscar bloggers. I mean, that's
really
no.
Okay.
You need to have a point of view. You need to have taste. You need to have a sense of history. I think what this really points to, this whole issue, is a problem that I long encountered, particularly at places like Netflix, where you could email someone and 2 minutes later, 4 other people have your email. And it's
yeah, right.
I'm communicating with you. If I wanted to loop 10 other people into it, I would have emailed them. So there's a real problem, I think, that publicists have as far as forwarding fucking emails that aren't intended. Like, what the fuck?
That's fair.
If I'm emailing someone, that's a one-on-one communication. You want to forward my email to somebody else? Fuck you.
Yeah. Look, I'm not salty about Reesboro. I was using it as an example. I was just using it as an example in this situation. But either way, I get your point. I don't agree with your points because of the threat. I think I would have agreed with your point if he hadn't made that extra threat, which is the only thing that Penske Media's representative walked back was the threat. Everything else essentially agreed with Scott on. But I do think this is something, and he doesn't give two shits about me, but it is something he may have to look at here because there is a pattern of him feeling himself a little too much, and it cuts him.
Why is that not allowed? Like, I mean, I've been.
You can feel yourself. Don't be stupid.
He's arrogant. He's narcissistic. You know, he's feeling himself too much. But like, you know, everyone else in whether it's sports, music, actors, they're supposed to say, "I'm the greatest. I believe in myself."
Right.
You know, like, but we're not allowed to do that as journalists. No.
How about this? You're allowed to do that, but don't reach out to certain people, tell them not to talk about it or to bury it or to not make a big deal about it, because then you're not actually okay with it. That's the difference. Jordan never reached out to a writer and said, please don't talk about the fact that I boasted about hitting 6 3-pointers in the first half of an NBA Finals game. Own your shit. That's my point at the end of the day. I own my shit. I've only ever deleted 2 or 3 controversial tweets in my entire time on Twitter, and I've never shut my fucking Twitter down, okay? I will own my controversial shit because that's who I am. And I think there's a pride in that. I think there's something to be said in that. Now, I don't work for Penske, so that's probably a whole other consideration.
He's not allowed to own his shit the way that you are.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and that's the sacrifice that he gives up. And it's like,
then don't talk shit.
I wish I hadn't made that sacrifice years ago. I would have liked to have had a steady paycheck right now. Instead, here I am on this podcast flapping my fucking gums.
How dare you? How dare you? It's a good podcast.
It's a great podcast, but because it's the only podcast where people can say whatever the fuck they want because they don't have Vanity Fair or fucking LA Times or any of these places down their necks.
Right. And this is why I started it.
This podcast can't exist at a place like that because it's what they all desperately need. They're all bland and boring. Yeah.
When we took the top 10 to Collider, we had to change the show from what it was because of those situations. And we essentially gutted the spirit of the show. So yeah, I don't work well under those situations, which is why I'm very lucky that I can make a living, you know, paying my bills, doing what I'm doing. And I'm very lucky that I pitched a show to Jeff. And by the way, I pitched a show years ago. And Jeff, you know, eventually we figured it out and started the show because I do think this show is necessary, where we're not a slave to any corporation or studio. We don't fear getting kicked out of access to certain things. We speak what we think is the truth about it, or at least our opinions on the situation, or what we think is the truth. And I think it's necessary because, yeah, Jeff, like you said, too many people are having to, unfortunately, answer to their paychecks and the people who sign their paychecks. And I hope to never be in that situation ever again, but who knows in life? Who knows?
I just, you know, going back to the Pete and the Steve Pond of it all, like I don't think I understand why Pond, who by the way is such a sweet guy and very soft spoken, and I really like Steve. I like all. I honestly I like all these guys. I like Pete too.
I like Pete a lot.
But it's like,
and Clayton. I like Clayton a lot too. Yeah,
of course. No, like I said, I really do like the folks in that space.
Yeah.
But I do feel like people do get to pick and choose which hat they're going to wear. You know, like, okay, I'm going to be a reviewer. I'm going to, you know, an awards columnist. Like, and maybe that's where there's a little bit of jealousy on Scott's part because he doesn't get to switch those hats, you know?
Yeah. But look, I mean, you're going to say what you're going to say in certain moments. I think the overall thing, and listen, aside personal feelings, whatever, this is just another example of how the belt is tightening in Hollywood around these kinds of things, Jeff. And I think everybody's feeling it. And these strikes are exposing a lot of this undercurrent of fear that has kind of been bubbling under the surface for a few years now and is really coming to the surface.
Tensions are high. I just don't understand why Vanity Fair felt like that was newsworthy. That Scott's email, it has publicists buzzing. Like, I don't know. It seemed like a low blow for a guy who, you can pick and choose all these Twitter escapades. Like, he's a pretty classy dude. Like, he's not a real shit talker like I am.
Well, but that hasn't been my experience, which is why I'm bringing it up, because with the HJ articles, we offered him a number of people to talk to. He had a certain point of view he wanted to put out in those articles about our organization. He had no problem destroying our organization without talking to the correct people that we tried to feed him to, and he wouldn't do it. So to me, I don't have sympathy for this guy in this situation because of how he went about doing things.
You and I have had our own discussions about the HCA.
And I've told you the books are open. When you're ready to write the article, please call Scott Menzel and have at it, Jeff. He has told me on numerous occasions, tell Jeff to call me. Let's have a conversation.
I think the Letitia Wright thing, I understand why she was upset about it.
Right.
But it was like, there's nothing wrong with this. She has baggage. People are talking about this baggage.
Yeah, the anti-vax stuff.
Vaccination stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
And could that play a role in her campaign? Maybe it's insensitive. Maybe she shouldn't have been grouped in an article with, sexual abusers or whatever.
Right.
But that wasn't, the article wasn't, here's a bunch of sexual abusers who, whatever. Right. It's just people with baggage. And that is widely encompassing.
It was the optics of it.
She belonged in the article. So yeah. I understand why she got bent out of shape, but I don't really think it's Scott's fault for including her in that.
It was the optics of it that really pissed her off. And you can understand.
That's what everything is. It's a bad look. It's the optics. Like, that's what I keep hearing from you. It's like, is it okay?
Because it's real.
What is it actually?
But it's always been the optics, Jeff, since the dawn of time, since cavemen wrote on walls. Optics have been important. You know that.
You're not wrong. Perception is everything.
Of course. Come on. All right, let's take a quick break because I am exhausted. Let's take a quick break and we'll jump into more stuff right after this. All right, Jeff, we survived our two big battles. Let's have some conversation about these other topics in the news. Talk to me getting a sequel. This is great. I loved the movie. You gave me the thumbs up to go see it, and it was a great experience, even though it scared the shit out of me. And I'm happy to see that these brothers, the Philippou brothers, are getting a chance to do a sequel for this.
Yeah. I really liked it when I saw it at Sundance. It didn't quite stick the landing. I might go tonight and see it again. Okay. But it's a very, very strong calling card for them. And I think that, A24 knew what it was doing when it picked this movie up. It knew this thing has franchise potential.
Yeah.
And I think, it shows that even A24 is not immune from having to chase those franchise dollars. You look at what it's done with X and Pearl and Maxine, that whole time.
Right. Yes.
This is now next. So I will be there. And I think they already said that they've shot some like prequel type footage about the character of Duckett, who's at the beginning of the movie. Did you see it yet? You saw it, right?
Right. Yeah. No, talk to me. Yeah. I loved it. I thought it was great. And I wanted more of the person who brought I forget the character's name, who brought the artifact into the whole situation with the kind of the bowl haircut. I forget what her name was, but I thought she was great. So I'd like to see more with them as well. Mm-hmm. All right. These Apple Disney rumors is in the title. Let's get into this. THR did an article from Kim Masters and Alex Weprin talking about, and they're opining that it is now more realistic than ever that Disney might be selling to Apple, not in its current state, but down the road after it's kind of sold off pieces of itself, including 20th Century, which it purchased, possibly ESPN, possibly Hulu, these other parts. And so Apple would essentially purchase Disney at a much more stripped version of it down the road because of the IP. Jeff, do you think this is now more possible when you hear that kind of reasoning, or do you think this is still just not going to happen because of all the federal regulations and all the implications of it for the entertainment business?
I mean, like I said a week or two ago, I would have thought it like just to be an insane idea. I just don't think that Bob Iger wants that to be his legacy, that he sold Disney, and this great creative mind, arguably, Hollywood's greatest studio ever created. He sold it off to a fucking tech company. Like, I don't think that is how he wants to be remembered. Although, given everything that he's been talking about with ESPN and bringing in a partner for that and dumping some of like the linear networks and stuff like that, it does, look like he may be slimming down, in advance of the sale. So, when Kim Masters puts her name on a story like that, I think you do have to take it seriously.
Yep.
But I still have a hard time believing that is ultimately Bob's master plan here.
Well, Apple has $62 billion in cash and cash equivalents and a $2.8 trillion market cap. So they're not some technology company, Jeff. They're a pretty big, huge conglomerate that owns our lives. And there is a connection here because Steve Jobs served on Disney's board of directors from 2006 until he died in 2011. Iger joined Apple's board shortly after Jobs died and resigned from the position in 2019 when Apple officially announced it was getting into the content business with Apple TV Plus. But Iger did write in his memoir, The Ride of a Lifetime, about his friendship with Steve Jobs, who financed and helped create Pixar, by the way. So there is an interesting relationship between Apple and Disney. And remember, Iger was the one promoting the new Apple VR sets just a few weeks ago. He said before there was a pandemic, before he returned from retirement to manage at Disney, facing enormous challenges, Iger wrote, "I believe that if Steve were alive today, Steve Jobs, we would have combined our companies or at least discussed the possibility very seriously." So clearly, he has had this on his mind for quite some time, the possibility of Apple and Disney combining, maybe not one owning the other, but combining. So it's not that much of a leap to surrendering the ownership to Disney and to Apple and then retaining your position, so to speak, in running Disney.
Yeah. I mean, again, anything could happen these days. It's all about, contraction and building up.
Yeah. We shall see with Apple. It's going to be real interesting if it happens, but it's not going to happen anytime soon. But speaking of Disney, Jeff, there's an AI task force that Disney has apparently created to study artificial intelligence and how it can be applied across the entertainment conglomerate. They are looking to develop AI applications in-house as well as form partnerships with startups. That's what 3 sources have told Reuters in this situation. Disney has 11 current job openings seeking candidates with expertise in AI or machine learning. And part of the reasons is because of these insane budgets for these films. They want to find a way to bring stuff down using AI. So is this a part of the streamlining of Disney, Jeff, where AI is going to be something they study and implement more and more, as we saw with the opening of Secret Invasion?
Yes, I think that every studio is going to be going down this road. It may just be that Disney is out in front.
Yeah. As they always try to be. Yeah.
But yeah, it's coming. I mean, there's no ignoring it.
Yeah, just to throw this out to you guys. Let's see. I was going to throw. Oh yeah. So the company announced back in 2008 a major research and development initiative with top technology universities around the world, funding labs at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich, Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, which they shut down in 2018. But in Switzerland, Disney Research has been exploring AI, machine learning, and visual computing, according to its website, and spent the last decade creating digital humans that are indistinguishable from their corporeal counterparts and fantasy characters that are puppeteered by actors. A lot of people who have gone to Disney have seen the Groot character. They are developing the ability for Groot to interact in real time with the park goers. So it's a very interesting situation now because everyone's up in arms about AI, but like there's really nothing you can do but minimize its impact at this point. And you said this last week when talking about the strikes, that's the one issue that you think the writers and the actors are going to have to give on. And it seems like the studios are just barreling forward without a care for the writers and the actors about the situation.
Yeah. I mean, again, they want to improve conditions for themselves, but you're not going to tell the studios how to run their business.
Yeah. Fair point. I want to get your thoughts on this. I'm going to bring this up. 27 Latino Hollywood organizations came out to.
Who even knew there were 27, John?
You know what makes me worse? I'm not a member of any of them. I'm so upset right now. But 27.
There were 26 organizations, and someone sat around being like, "Should we start our own, guys?"
But there are 27. I'm going to apply to all of them after this show. But there are 27 Latino Hollywood organizations, including Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute, LA Collab, Latino Film Institute, National Association of Latino Independent Producers, and the National Hispanic Media Coalition, among others, who wrote a letter as a call to action with the hashtag Support Latino Creatives to make it possible for the promotion of Blue Beetle to happen, Jeff. And this is what they wrote in their letter. Stories are more than entertainment. They are a powerful tool for social change that fuels our collective movement to build a more equitable, just world for those who have been historically underrepresented and marginalized. Actors, writers, and directors are essential to this work as we watch them do what they do best. We are reminded that their art influences how people think and feel about our communities, both at home and abroad. While we're encouraged by some of the changes we've seen in recent years, we continue to deal with the repercussions from years of being actively erased and invisible on screen. And just to give a little more context, in 2021, a study by USC Annenberg that looked over 1,300 films over a 13-year time frame found that only 5% of 51,158 characters were either identified as Hispanic or Latino. So they want to make Blue Beetle an exception. And in this situation with the strikes going on, and they're trying to encourage SAG-AFTRA and others to loosen the grip a little bit on this one, because this is such a unique film, being the first ever first ever studio film to have a Latino superhero in the lead. I myself, as a SAG actor, have agreed to promote this movie, and if I get any shit for it, I'll just deal with it. But because of the importance of the movie, in my opinion, what do you think about this? Them writing the letter and them wanting to get these restrictions loosened. I knew eventually it was going to happen. Go ahead. What do you think, Jeff?
I think it's pretty preposterous.
How dare you?
So it's like you just want special treatment because I don't understand. Are you Latino first? Or you SAG-AFTRA first? Like,
I'm John Rocha first, always. Yeah.
Right. Oh, I'm just saying, as Blue Beetle though, in this cat, like, yeah, why should they be granted some special treatment? I don't understand.
Well, it's more a matter of because of
quality, or you want special treatment. Which one do we want?
I want a little bit of special treatment on this one, and then eventually equality. That's what
the quality one we wanted, and then sometimes the special treatment, but mostly equality. I mean,
come on, the uniqueness of this, I think that should be respected.
Come on, like we've never seen a Latino in a movie before.
No, as the lead of superhero film, it's never happened before.
Latino superhero movie. What if this is the first Latino-led killer shark movie?
Well, that's not on the same level. Come on, you know that. You're being obtuse for a reason, for God's sake.
Superheroes or some special genre that this is a very important pop culture moment for. I mean, it's like, come on.
Yeah. Oscar Isaac in Moon Knight is not a fucking movie. I said movie, Wild Samurai. Try to listen to my words, not a series.
Hey, speaking of things that are movies versus TV shows,
go ahead.
One thing up.
Go ahead, man.
Season 4 of The Mandalorian.
Yes. Yeah, is this true? What you're hearing? Are you hearing something? Is it true?
No, it's not true. It's definitely a season of television and not a movie.
Yeah, people are saying that it's a movie. I'm like, what are you talking about? It is not a movie. It is going to be a season of television. So yeah, craziness. Well, anyway, I will be promoting Blue Beetle. I will be giving away Fandango codes and taking shit for it, I'm sure, but I don't care. For my people, I'll do it. I'll take the shit for it for sure. No, and Zorro is not a fucking superhero. You guys cut it the fuck out, man. Anyway, it's like saying MacGyver's a superhero.
There was no Blue Beetle helping Zorro. Okay, take this very seriously.
Yes, I do, motherfucker. All right. Well, what else do you want to talk about? You want to give your review on anything, on Demeter, on anything that's going out right now?
Yes. Let's talk about the 2 movies opening this weekend.
Yeah,
because we're getting along on the show now. But
we are.
Gran Turismo.
Yeah, Gran Turismo. I'm seeing it next week. Talk to me. Is it great?
Seen it?
No, they didn't show it down here yet.
That is true. So they bumped Gran Turismo 2 weeks to the 25th, but they're doing sneak previews this week and next weekend. Right. And so they canceled the screening on Monday, but then they were like, actually, it's not canceled because we forgot about the sneak previews.
Right.
So I went. What a fucking delight.
That's what I hear. Everyone's telling me it's great. Tell me more.
Huge surprise.
Wow.
I don't even want to build it up too much, because I think a big part of it is like kind of going with low expectations and be pleasantly surprised. But the last 45 minutes of this movie, fantastic.
Okay.
I sat there honestly watching it going, Disney needs to hire this guy.
Oh.
Disney needs to hire Neil Blomkamp to do, whether he was doing like Tron 3 or a Pirates of the Caribbean movie, like this guy could make a pretty good Disney movie. I think.
After a string of disappointing films after District 9, you think with this film he's kind of
to you they're disappointing, and you're not my favorite critic. I liked Elysium and I liked Chappie. The only movie that sucked of his was the indie piece of crap Demonic, which is like unwatchable.
Wow. Did you guys hear Jeff come for me in public in front of everybody? You son of a bitch! God damn.
I think he's a really interesting director. I think he makes interesting movies.
Well, tell the public because they don't go to his movies, buddy boy, and that's usually what gets people to enjoy the. So if this is a good film, but it tanks, do we still hand him the keys to something?
Coming out the last week of August, though, like what are the expectations for this movie? Come on,
not good, not a lot. I don't think they're big expectations at all.
I mean, I think it could open to like 25.
Nobody knows the actor. Orlando Bloom hasn't been relevant since the Pirates of the Caribbean heyday, and David Harbour is a TV actor.
David Harbour's so good in this too.
That's what I hear. Plus, you got Ginger Spice for God's sakes, Jeff.
It's just like she. I did actually. I turned to my buddy halfway. I was like, "Is that fucking Ginger Spice?" I had a really good time with it. I always liked the premise and the trailers, and it delivered on that. And it felt like a throwback. It felt like more Days of Thunder than Need for Speed.
Fair enough. Yeah, I loved District 9. Loved District 9. Elysium was ridiculous. Except for Jodie Foster, who I liked in the movie. Chappie was, I don't know what Chappie was. But like but they were supposed to do an Alien movie. Blomkamp was as well.
Right.
That's under the Fox banner, isn't it? With under the Disney banner with 20th Century. So would that be possible? You think down the road, if him finally doing this Alien situation?
Let's see what happens with these. There's an Alien movie in the works and an Alien show in the works. So there's a lot of Alien stuff coming.
Yeah, and that's been cast.
Whether that takes Alien off the board or if it's like, hey, this stuff actually is a hit. Let's do another Alien. Maybe Neil is the person to think of for that. But I'm telling you, he did a good job with this one.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it.
Now, Demeter, you saw that one, right?
I did. I saw it last night.
What'd you think?
I think it's a fine Saturday afternoon, early evening movie. You pay $5 matinee dollars for it, and you'll get what you paid for. I think it had the potential to be really great, but I do think there are a certain section of the Dracula fandom that will like it because it is very reflective of the source material. It takes its time and it leads into the thing that it leads to. I never found myself bored or wanting to check my watch in terms of leaving the theater. So that's a positive in that direction. I did like Corey Hawkins. Aisling Franciosi, who is the girl Anna in the film, she's damn good. I want to see her more things.
She's a good actress.
I don't think I've seen her in anything. So I'm like, I want to go see what I might have seen her in. Liam Cunningham does a really great job in this as well. There's just some like power missing from the movie. And I think because you've cast these actors who aren't really that powerful on screen, I think it becomes an issue. So.
I really liked Dracula in this.
Yeah.
And that was about it. It is slow and it is a little.
That's what I say. Takes its time.
It is a little boring. I did check my watch a good amount. I thought Corey Hawkins was pretty miscast.
Wow. Really?
And I mean, you know, when they talk about like forced diversity, I don't know what the original draft of this script looked like. This is what I think people are talking about.
Yeah.
Talking about forced diversity, where it's like, this just feels like a movie with a bunch of white dudes on a ship. And they were like, can we get a black guy in this movie?
Jesus.
Like, it just doesn't, he's a boring character. I mean, He's like playing the doctor.
Yeah.
No, it didn't work. And it was too long. The movie was a full 2 hours.
Yeah.
It feels creaky, like, you know, like it's based on Bram Stoker's Dracula, a 200-year-old novel, you know, or whatever.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It feels like it. But look, I liked Corey Hawkins. I thought he did a nice job for possibly an underwritten role. Because, I mean, his whole impetus, when he tells you what his whole reason is, you're like, really? This is the thing that is driving your life?
Yeah. I'll give you that. He didn't have a lot to work with there.
Yeah. That's right.
I was like, really? Like, because there's like, you know, one or two lines maybe addressing him being a black guy, you know, on this ship in this era. But
yeah, there's only a couple of moments.
I know they had black people back then. Obie Sanders, thank you.
Do you think Do you think that this affects your feeling for Exorcist because he's going to be the lead in the Exorcist movie?
He's not. It's Leslie Odom, right?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Did it affect your feeling about
Jesus, John.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I was looking at something else right now because I was looking at Aisling Franciosi's resume and wondering if I've seen anything here of hers.
Nightingale is a masterpiece.
I need to see the Nightingale. Everyone tells me it's a rough watch, which is why I held off watching.
There's 3 rapes in the first 20 minutes.
Holy shit. I can only handle that in The Handmaiden's Tale. Man.
Forgive me, not forced diversity, tokenism. Maybe that's the right word, Michael.
Tokenism.
Tokenism. It just that's what it felt like. It was like this dude doesn't feel like part of this world. Like,
yeah, fair enough. I apologize to Leslie Odom. I'm sorry. I was distracted for a second. I apologize. Anything else that you recommend? I mean, both of us recommend Winning Time. I finally saw the first episode. Holy shit, Jeff. I'm mad at you for having seen the whole season because I'm going to shake trees so hard tomorrow on emails trying to get access to this series. I have to watch this series ASAP, man. Great beginning.
As a Celtics fan, it's obviously great. Geez, things that I am allowed to talk about that I can say I saw.
Anything?
I watched like Kandahar this week. That wasn't bad. But, like,
good.
What were we gonna say?
I liked that movie. I interviewed the director on on this channel about that movie. The movie was good, Jeff.
Dude, there are shots in that movie and some like that nighttime helicopter chase. I'm like, this should be. I'll tell you what I was thinking watching the movie. I was like, this guy should be directing James Bond.
100%. 100%.
And that sounds crazy because like Rick Romanwa is not who you think of when you think of Bond, which has become this prestige job for the Sam Mendes's and Cary Fukunaga's, and it's only befitting of a Nolan rumor or whatever these days.
But and it didn't used to be, by the way. Yeah,
right, exactly. It was very kind of like, let's just get any old hack in here to do this. But Rick Romanwa has been making really solid action movies that are just like down and dirty and gritty, and doing it on like a budget. And I think he could do something really special with a $200 million budget like Bond has.
Well, he's working with The Rock on the Cliffhanger remake or sequel. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, not The Rock, Stallone, right?
Yes.
And then I asked him if he would do a Fast and Furious movie down the road to work with The Rock again. Maybe Hobbs and Shaw. I think he'd be fun with that. But yes, I agree with you. I think he's a fantastic director. And this film has the right tone for that kind of film. Someone's saying that they took a recommendation and watched Jury Duty, which both of us really enjoyed. I loved it. Highly recommend for anyone. So if you guys want, I interviewed the executive producer of Jury Duty earlier this week on my channel. It is up. It's a 25-minute interview.
Was it Nick Hatton?
Nick Hatton. Yep. We sat down for 25 minutes
as well.
Yeah. So,
I would recommend. I liked the Rise and Fall of HQ trivia documentary.
I gotta see that on Max. Yeah.
It was. Wasn't anything amazing, but it was good. There's a movie Bobcat Moretti I wanted to put a little shout out for.
Okay.
A pretty small indie, it may be on Vudu or VOD right now, but it's like with Vivica Fox, and she's like playing a boxing trainer, and like the lead actor, he was like he's like a big fat guy.
Yeah.
And he lost like 100, 150 pounds or something. I think he lost more weight than any actor ever for any role ever.
Wow.
It was a pretty amazing transformation. It's a couple of other things. I'd recommend The Jewel Thief if you haven't seen that on Hulu. It's a documentary. I like that a lot. Yeah, that's all right. That's enough.
Let's give some thoughts on William Friedkin as we come to
wrap the show on Friedkin then.
Okay. Well, if we're gonna wrap, let me take a quick break because we're at half an hour.
Okay.
So I can put it there. We'll be right back. Talk about William Friedkin right after this. All right, Jeff. William Friedkin passing away here. A man who is not short of speaking his mind, as the numerous TikTok videos showed me the day after he passed. But what a career, working all the way up into the 2000s. Incredible films like The French Connection, The Exorcist, which 50 years celebration will be happening later this year when the newest installment comes out that is a sequel with the return of Ellen Burstyn. Sadly, William not around to see that now, but certainly a number of films through the 80s, work with Pacino, work with a number of people into the 90s. Blue Chips, one of Jeff Snyder's favorite films. So Your thoughts when you think about William Friedkin, also married Sherry Lansing, who was the CEO of Paramount Pictures for a very long time. So a guy who has had his finger on the pulse of movies through some of the greatest decades of movies. What are your thoughts on his passing?
I mean, I think it's a huge loss. He's obviously one of the greatest filmmakers pretty much ever. You know the movies, whether it's French Connection or Exorcist or Sorcerer. I'm sure a lot of people are queuing up to Live and Die in L.A. This week. That's another big one.
Out in 4K for anybody who wants to get it.
And the movies that he made, later in his career, I think are interesting. Killer Joe is certainly, a good one. And I'm looking forward to the Court Martial movie, the Cane Mutiny.
Oh yeah, right.
That's going to debut at Venice. So he still has movies ahead of him, Friedkin.
That's crazy.
But aside from what we've lost as a filmmaker, just like this dude was the fucking man. Like, have you seen all these interviews and stories that have come out about him? Like, they've been absolutely priceless. Just like, a college kid standing up at a Q&A being like, should I shoot my student film on film or on digital? And he'll be like, who gives a shit? The Q&A, the interview they did with Nicholas Winding Refn.
Oh, dude, that's must watch.
Entirety, right? He's Drive. Nick Refn's like, oh, I made Drive 4 years ago, and it's a masterpiece.
It's a masterpiece.
4 years. That's a pimple on the ass of humanity. That's nothing. We won't know about Drive for 30 years. But he was just a quote machine. And a guy who I think was pretty generous. Could be tough to work for sometimes, but pretty generous with other filmmakers, and one of a kind. In a town that is in short supply of true originals these days.
Yeah, quite a few people. Well, I've read some people. Like there was an editor who posted numerous tweets, a tweet thread talking about working with Friedkin on a number of films, and he said I'd heard all the stories about him. He was fantastic to me, and he really cared about these movies, even though he pretended like he didn't give a shit. He did care and wanted people to like his movies, wanted people to go to his movies, and the crazy part is like, he also did music videos, Jeff. He directed Barbra Streisand's version of Somewhere from her Broadway album. He directed the TV version of 12 Angry Men.
Right. That's a great movie,
which is a good the only other than the original that I'll ever watch. He directed a segment from The Twilight Zone in the TV series. He directed Laura Branigan's song Self-Control from back in the 1980s. And then he did The Hunted, which is a version of First Blood, updated with Tommy Lee Jones and Benicio del Toro. He did Bug. And as you said, Killer Joe, I would argue Killer Joe is the beginning of the McConaissance. Like people looking at McConaughey in a different way after that movie, right?
Absolutely. Cruising is another obviously hugely influential movie that he did. And there's some legendary stories about the making of that movie. Man, Friedkin, what else is there to say? Like, they don't make him like him anymore.
No, we're the last two left. All right, let's move on to some of these StreamLabs Super Chats as we wrap up.
Real quickly, did you see like some trailers this week, like Fair Play? Did you watch that trailer?
No, I did not watch that one.
Like the big Netflix movie that they bought at Sundance for $20 million with Alden Ehrenreich. That looks
Is that
good.
the Denover one? The Sidney Denover? No.
Okay.
No.
There's another trailer for a movie. It's it was like a Russian trailer, but it was for this movie Mother's Instinct with Anne Hathaway and Jessica Chastain.
Ooh,
that looked good. What else came out this week? There was some interesting.
What about the Continental series trailer? Did you see that?
I didn't watch that one actually because I'm just going to watch that blind. I don't need a trailer to give all away all the cool shit in moments.
Not much. It's just that it's going to be Gibson versus the guy who's playing Winston, and there's a bunch of great action sequences and fight sequences in the trailer. But that's the basic genesis. You get the basic story in the trailer, and you're good to go. It looks like the production value is high on this one.
It's better. I'm looking forward to that. That could drive signups for Peacock in a major way.
More than Twisted Metal? I thought Twisted Metal was
my brother is watching Twisted Metal. He says it's cool. I haven't watched it yet, only because the night I went to watch it, I think the screeners ended up going up the very next day.
Oh, okay.
Because I grew up playing that game, so I am curious about it. But I had to laugh about the press release that they put out or had Deadline put out, where it's like, this is the most binged, Peacock original comedy of the week or whatever the fuck it was. It was some ridiculous thing where it's just like, Just give it to me straight. How many people are watching this show? You can't tell me? Okay, then I don't care. Just like the streamers with this, they come up with all these records to break, but they don't actually tell you what the record is.
You got to get people to watch the show, man. That's the game, you know. All right, let's hit some of these Streamlabs and Super Chats to wrap up. Jay Blink says, the ignorance of Dwayne Johnson with Black Adam is that he points out ways he thought the movie was successful, except for whether he thought the script was good, as if it wasn't important to him. Yeah, it's I don't know if it's ignorance. I don't think it's ignorance at all. I think it's a very crafted narrative Dwayne put out there, and he's going to stick by it no matter what. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Dwayne definitely doesn't give it. No one gives a shit about whether the script is good. They care about how much money it made.
Yeah, did people go see it? That's what matters, right? Especially for him. I mean, he's not trying to win Oscars.
And it made just enough to let him, employ this narrative.
Yes. Jay Blinks also says, I said before, that's my biggest issue with Dwayne Johnson. He prioritizes marketability over storytelling. Yeah, but that's Dwayne Johnson. What do you think? Dwayne's out here trying to make you Oscar-winning films? That ain't Dwayne. Dwayne's about entertaining you. He knows what his wheelhouse is, and he'll occasionally veer out into some higher fare, but he understands where his audience is, and he caters to it very well. So
he's not the writer or the director. He's the guy selling the picture. Yes, he prioritizes marketability.
Yeah. Zach Woolley says it's political because it puts this guy on a pedestal and it gives him the appearance of being a real hero, and it practically gives him an endorsement. Talk about Sound of Freedom. So.
That is up to you. I mean, it gives him the appearance of being a real hero. I didn't sit there watching this movie being like, man, that Tim, I got to invite him to dinner. That's a real hero. It's just he's a movie character who happens to be based on a real guy. Like, I just don't really quite get it.
Okay, fair point. Empire Fan 1980 says, rewatched the movie Selena, and I forgot how good it was. I was little when it happened. What was your reaction to the news of her being shot and killed? Jeff, do you remember? Were you in LA when that happened?
I was dating Selena at the time.
Jeff! God damn it, Jeff.
Anything for Selena.
Yes, I remember this story.
Very sad story, tragic indeed. Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It was a big deal, with us because I was not in LA at the time, but I remember it being a very huge deal. And being Latino and my mother knowing Selena, and in terms of knowing her music, knowing her as a stat, and the way it went down.
Your mom knew Selena?
Well, not as a person, obviously, but obviously knew her music, loved her music, and what have you. So when she died the way she did, it was such a tragedy, and it's a shame. And I think in some fucked up way, it adds to her legendary status, but you would hope that there could have been a better way for that without that happening and having her live many decades to add to the legendary status of her. But certainly an incredible talent and one of the greatest performances of J-Lo's career. Still.
She was excellent.
Still, yeah. Let's see here. Doug Developer says, I just want to clarify because I know that came off wrong about Gal Gadot. I mean that she is similar to someone like Chris Hemsworth. He's great for action films, but people have a hard time believing him as a genius actor in Black Hat. His roles are limited. Jeff, do you think that's true?
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
I don't really see what's wrong with that. Like, the best movie stars know the right roles for themselves.
Yeah, true.
I mean, they stretch when they need, when called for, but they're playing archetypes. That's really what a movie star is. A character actor can disappear and be a chameleon.
Yeah.
Movie stars, we kind of want to play themselves in a way.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. One last one here. Wayne Edwards says, I don't know what's more disturbing, the possible QAnon connection to the movie Sound of Freedom, or that John and Jeff both think Pacific Rim is a bad movie. LOL.
God.
It's a terrible movie. The sequel's even worse.
So bad. Dude, those are bad movies.
I know we're running late, but I got to ask you this. Mississippi Boat Brawl, where do you fall on this, Jeff? Where do you fall on the Mississippi Boat Brawl? Where are you falling on?
You know what? Wildly entertaining. I don't follow anywhere. I just want to see people beat the shit out of each other.
I love the internet for moments like this because the TikTok videos and the memes and the tweets from this just been incredible. Somebody said, if you thought Black Twitter was dead, this was a reminder Black Twitter is not dead, and y'all need to be paying attention. Horrific situation. More details still coming out, but Jesus Christ, are people inventive with some of this stuff? It's amazing.
What was horrific about it? It just looked like people fighting.
It was racist. That's what was horrific about it. They were using the N-word on this guy multiple times, And it came out that they went to the hospital, saw that the nurses were black, and started using the N-word against the hospital nurses, and they kicked them out of the hospital, Jeff. This is the level of stupidity that we're dealing with these people being emboldened.
I'm all for kicking racist asses.
Yeah.
You know, like
me too.
You can't let them get away with that shit.
Take steel chairs to all of them. Do you want to say anything about Adam Devine's comments about comedies and Marvel, or should we leave that alone?
No, he's spot on in the sense that people get their comedy from Marvel movies nowadays. That's not a secret. Yeah, people have stopped going to comedies because they'd much rather just go to a superhero movie and have Chris Pratt make them laugh with a few one-liners.
Yeah. Well, that wouldn't be happening if people made better comedies, and Adam Devine isn't one of those people who makes good comedies.
No, they're not making. First of all, did you see the Outlaws?
Yes, an hour of the Outlaws, and I almost stabbed my head into a wall.
I enjoyed it.
Oh, you're not a critic I trust, for fuck's sake.
That's a guilty pleasure, a fun Netflix movie for the whole family.
Terrible. Jexy was terrible. Come on.
Jexy was bad.
He's not even the lead in Pitch Perfect, so don't even give me that. Don't even give me that.
I like Adam Devine, and
I like him as a performer. He just doesn't make good comedy. Good.
But it's the studios that aren't bothering to make the comedies because they're just saying, well, you know, this Ant-Man movie is a comedy, so we don't need to make a comedy.
Well, I think they would. I mean, we're about to get Strays. Our Barbie is a comedy, you would argue. And I mean, no hard feelings. That did come out. It just wasn't good. I think the studios are happy to make comedies if they're fucking good, but they're not fucking good. And a lot of these people writing these comedies aren't funny. And so in the end, they don't want to sink the money in, because I think you can lose more. Look at Bros. That Bros lost a lot of money, Jeff. And they sank a lot of money into Bros.
No, it didn't.
It did.
It lost a lot of money. What do you think it cost? What do you think a movie starring Billy Eichner and Luke?
It was $34 million.
$34 million? How
much it cost?
I'd be surprised.
$22 million was the budget. It made $14.8 million. And 22 is like without the marketing. And there was a lot of marketing for that movie. So it lost money in comparison.
Sure, it did. It's also one of the funniest movies of the last decade.
100% agree with you.
The second best movie I saw last year.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I think they are making good comedies, but I think that they're making fewer because people are afraid to be funny.
Maybe.
Because of how politicized comedy has become. Studios are afraid to make the next Hangover 40-year-old virgin for fear of offending all of our delicate snowflakes these days.
On both sides. I just think streaming is what ruins comedies. People just go, I can wait for it to come up on.
That's true too. If you're going to spend a whole night out at the theater, you want to see something that needs to be seen on the big screen. And even though visually we don't think of comedies like that,
right?
I think that comedies and horror movies are the most important movies to see in theaters because you're feeding off the crowd's reaction.
Yeah.
That's what makes movies a communal experience. Although I understand where if you don't value that or don't put a lot of stock in that, then it's like, okay, why do I need to see No Hard Feelings in a movie theater? You don't really.
Well, I think that's what you got to explore in this. Why did Bros and Joyride, which got all kinds of publicity ahead of it, just sank like a stone in the box office? And those are both good comedies and did not do well. So, you know.
People will go watch black women be funny, like in Girls Trip.
Girls Trip, right.
I think people, it's tough to get wide audiences out for an Asian-led comedy that isn't based on a huge book like Crazy Rich Asians was. I mean, that was a phenomenon.
Right.
Had heard of Crazy Rich Asians. I think it's tough to open an original comedy like Joyride in the middle of the summer marketplace, even with good reviews.
Yeah, it made $14.4 million, and I think the production budget was 14.9. So, so you know, it did what it did in the long run. It's unfortunate. All right, let's the blackening. Nobody went to the blackening. I would love to see the numbers for They Clone Tyrone, which
because you have to make it again.
Yeah.
Not to make these movies reductive, but blackening aimed at black audiences, Joyride aimed at Asian audiences, Bros aimed at gay audiences. You got to make comedies that are for everybody, that aren't for these niche audiences.
Wait, but that's a universal thing because everyone makes the joke that black people die first in horror films from the 1980s on. So it's a play on that. So it is a universal. Joyride's universal as well because it's about these people going.
You can argue that they're all universal, but when it comes down to marketing them, is my dad?
That's fair.
Be the exact same movie and have the same laugh quotient. My dad's going to go see The Hangover, and he's not going to entertain the idea of seeing Joyride. So if you want his comedy dollars, you got to make something. Not to say that there can't be Asian people in it. Make Hangover with an Asian as one of the 3 leads, but you can't have 4 Asian women and expect my dad to show up for it.
That's fair. You're like Simmons. Your dad is the barometer for everything.
I mean, because it's true. I mean, whether it's my dad, my brothers, my high school friends, these are just normal people who don't live in the bubble that you and I very clearly live in, and don't see everything through race or gender or politics or whatever.
Fair point. I think we're more normal. I think we're more normal than most people in this bubble. So I just put that out there.
We definitely are.
Yeah, that's why we have this show. All right, let's get out of here. We're an hour and 50 minutes. We gotta get out of here. Thank you so much for joining us. What's that? This
isn't a marathon.
All right, let's get out of here. Thanks everybody for watching. And oh Jesus, Brandon, I saw Oppenheimer on Sunday. Really enjoyed it, but I couldn't help picturing all the actors in their other roles. Raiden from Mortal Kombat, Iron Man, freaking Scarecrow was hooking up with the Black Widow's sister. LOL. Oh Jesus, come on, Brandon, work harder. But yes, Oppenheimer going to take the lady. It's our anniversary tomorrow, Jeff. 5 years together, me and the Lady Outlaw. And she wants to go see Oppenheimer for one of the things we do on our anniversary. So I picked the right one. Thank you to everybody who hang out with us today. Thanks for the StreamLabs Super Chats, the lively chat. Jeff, what do you have to tell them? Tell them where they can find you and all you got going on.
AboveTheLine.com, LAMag.com every now and then. Twitter. Cameo. I was selling cameos like hotcakes this week, John.
Really? Nice.
And I only gotten one text during the show about how insane you are. So congratulations.
Let me guess who that text was from. He's just as insane. All right, thank you everybody. As for me, you can follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, The Outlaw Nation on Twitch. And tomorrow we are going live with the Geek Buddies at 3 o'clock tomorrow. 3 o'clock. We haven't been live in a while. So come bring your questions, come bring your stuff, come hang out with us. 3 p.m. PT tomorrow.
Hey, I'm going live at 3 p.m. tomorrow.
For what? What are you going live on?
FYC is going to do a live episode. John, our audience is going to be split.
Sorry, buddy. We had to do this.
Watch mine later.
All right, fine. Yes, there you go. All right, well, thanks, everybody. Y'all take care of yourselves. Be well. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Go see a movie. And we'll talk to you next time with another brand new episode here of the Hot Mic. Peace.